Hello and welcome to NFP Week Conversations. I'm your host, Peg Hensler, and today's topic is how to speak to our wonderful daughters about fertility awareness and appreciation from the Catholic perspective. So I'm very, very excited to welcome our guest today, who is actually a friend of mine and my former coworker. Her name is Cristina Imperato. And so I welcome Cristina, and please, Cristina, come and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me and for asking me to come and talk about this. Again, my name is Cristina Imperato. I am a mother of three. I have my son David is 10, Maggie is 8, and Viviana is 6, going on 7 soon. And I'm a pre-K teacher at Koinonia Academy in Plainfield, New Jersey, a really small but authentic, passionate Catholic school where I just love it. The community is just amazing. It's like a family there. And before that, I worked at the diocese with these amazing people, with Peg and the team out there. And I was the coordinator for young adult ministries and worked alongside with family life, and I absolutely loved it and I miss it so much, and I miss all of you so much. But God called me elsewhere so that I can be more present to my family, and so here I am.
That's right. And you are a mom, you're a Catholic mom, you have Catholic daughters. And so our theme in the Diocese of Trenton, kind of our emphasis for this year's NFP initiatives, is the mother-daughter connection. And of course, we know how absolutely important it is for moms to pass along wisdom from their own experience. So we even say that those children who don't have biological moms or don't have a mom in their life, they need a role model, a mother role model who really is going to speak from their own experience. So we're excited about this initiative. And so we want to talk to you today about what it's like to be a Catholic mom. And so obviously it sounds like in your life, as we know, being Catholic is probably one of the most important things. Being a daughter of the King, and you introduced that concept to me, and you talked about that about your daughters, and I think that's so wonderful because your children are the daughter of a King. Jesus is the King, and so yes. So I just really want to begin by having you share a little bit about what it's like to be, the highlights of being raised Catholic, and what it's like to be a Catholic mom today, and maybe bringing some of those traditions from your family, because we heard so many stories about your family over the years. And the thing that's wonderful, there's so many things wonderful about Cristina, but one of the things is that she's so real and she shares real stories, and it makes us feel so good because Christ is in the center of all of it. And that's what makes it so graced and so beautiful. So if you could just share a little bit,
Sure.
Cristina Uncorked. We would love
Cristina
to hear.
Uncorked.
Yeah, we would love to hear that kind of perspective on just being a Catholic mom in the world today.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in New York, and I have 3 older sisters. I'm the youngest, and we came from a household where we didn't have much. My parents are Dominican, and when they came here, they, like every other family that came to the United States to look for a better life, they had to work really hard. And so they really instilled in us a work ethic. That was my parents' big thing. My dad only went up to 7th grade and my mom to like 2nd or 3rd. So education was important. They knew that it was important, but for the most part, it was the work ethic. But on top of everything else, it was church. And we grew up, we called ourselves church rats because we were always there. And so we were there on Sundays for Mass. The only reason we got out of Mass is if we had a stomach issue. Even if we had a fever, my mother would say to me, "Don't worry, Jesus is going to heal you. Let's go." And so, yeah, the only way we didn't go to Mass is if there was a stomach problem. And so, so that was my mom. We prayed the rosary every night. I mean, gosh, I can tell you stories about praying the rosary with kids and what we would do. There were a lot of moments that I had to kneel on rice while praying the rosary because I wasn't very cooperative, let's say. And kneeling on raw rice for 20 minutes, it was not fun. One time I had to do it with my arms out. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
These are the stories we miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I called my grandmother a really not a good word. And so, yeah, but growing up Catholic, I mean, we were there. We were in church at least 4 times a week, at least. You know, we were a part of a group called Las Hijas de Maria, which were the Daughters of Mary. And my mom was really passionate and about raising us in the church. And, you know, growing up, sometimes it was a chore and sometimes we absolutely loved it. And I still have friends today, you know, that we still keep in touch, and they're like my sisters. And it's the best thing my mom could have ever done for us, was to raise us in the church in that way, with such community.
Absolutely. And so you brought that kind of thing into your life. Obviously, you have an amazing support system in your parish. You are so much a part of your parish community. And so for you and for me as well, I would identify first as a Catholic before anything else. When people ask me what I am, I say I'm a Catholic. And so that's so beautiful. So just to share a little bit about raising your daughters in the Catholic faith and what that's been like. I mean, obviously you have a son and 2 daughters, but now we're talking a little bit about the unique challenges we have by raising daughters in the faith.
Yeah. One of the first things that I did with my children when they were little, I mean, like a year old, like I would always say to them, you are a son or daughter of the King. You are a prince, you are a princess. And I really wanted them to understand that their dignity comes from God, that they are made in the image and likeness of God, and that they are loved. And so, even now, like, and it's so funny because I do it all the time, and I do it now without even thinking of it. Like I'll look at my kids, and my son included, not just my girls, but I know we're specifically talking about the girls, but I look at them all the time and I'm like, how did you get to be so beautiful? And in the beginning, it was always like, because I'm a daughter of the King. And I was like, that's right, because you are made in the image and likeness of God. And not so long ago, I asked my daughter, I said, oh my gosh, why are you so beautiful? You're just so beautiful. I can't handle it. And she goes, because you made me. And I looked at her and it was one of the first times that she said that, like, because it's not that I've ingrained it in them, but I want them to know that they are the daughter of the King. And so when she said that, I was kind of surprised. And I said, yeah, I was like, you came from me, but you are a daughter of the King. I was like, you are a princess. And I don't want her to forget that. So even though it was beautiful that she said she came from me, and she did come from me, I want her to remember that it's not about me, it's about God. And so I always try to point it back to God. And that was my 8-year-old, soon to be 9-year-old, who said that to me. And it was funny because it was a little shocking to me. But that's the most important thing for me as a mom, is to make sure that my children know that their dignity comes from
absolutely
God, and that who they are. It doesn't matter what the world says. It matters what God says. And
no, that's
so
beautiful.
I need them to always know that fact, that they are a daughter or a son of God.
Yeah, no, that's the key right there. That's the key to human dignity. So what we're actually talking about today is the topic of passing along that wisdom of our wonderfully made bodies, of fertility awareness and appreciation, really from the earliest age. Because what we are finding, of course, is, and with my background in marriage ministry and working with engaged couples, is we find so many engaged couples saying natural family planning, when they hear about it in marriage preparation, never heard of it. What is it? You know? And so I think what one of our goals here is to introduce these concepts at a much earlier age. We actually have a marriage plan, which you probably recall, launched in 2015. And one of the action items of the plan is to introduce NFP-related concepts age appropriately, but much earlier on, so that when you're entering the dating relationships, when you're starting to decide your vocation in life, you already have an understanding that your body, especially young women, that your body it's made in the image and likeness of God, so you have tremendous worth. And therefore, the way you use your body, the way you, according to God's plan, you know, in a chaste and holy way, is just such an important aspect of our faith, and just something that moms need to instill. So can you comment on that? Why you think it's so important to start introducing those concepts at an early age?
One of the biggest issues that we face in this world today is just the misunderstanding, the distortion that there is when it comes to your body and how we use our body, if that's how we want to say it. But with talking to your children at an early age, you start with the basics. And so you start with, you're created in the image and likeness of God. You start with, you know, you are a daughter of the King. You start with all of those things so that they can understand their self-worth, right? Because the older we get, the more we forget that we are made in his image. The more then we start saying, oh, look at this wrinkle. Oh my gosh, I'm getting gray. Or look at or whatever the case may be. I'm not pretty enough. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. I'm too this. I'm too the other. We're not happy with who we are. And that's me, right? So I could always pick out something about myself that I'm not happy with, right? But if we start to introduce to them theology of the body or NFP or whatever in age appropriate ways, you know, you start with the basic. And what is basic? The basic truth is that we are loved, right? That's it. How different the world would be if every single person in this world knew and understood that we were loved by a merciful God. How different would the world be, right? So my job as a Catholic mom is to teach my children that they are loved by God, that no matter what they do, right? Because as long as they are sorry for their sins and they want to change the way that they're living, that they are loved by God.
Absolutely.
That even in our weaknesses, even in our sins, that God died for me. He died for you, and he died for my kids. And so that is the basic truth, right? The basic truth is that we are loved. And so in today's society, there's so many lies that are being fed, especially to the girls.
Yes.
You know, this whole, even, it's so funny. So even in this whole filtered world, right? I was just reading something about that today. And I was thinking about Snapchat, right? You know, on Snapchat, you can change the filters and you can make yourself have like green eyes and blue eyes, and they thin your face out and whatever. And then there's some really silly ones. And so my girls and even my son, we like to play with the filters. You know, I make myself a dog, or there's a cat on my shoulder, whatever the case may be. But I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how it's distorted, right? Sometimes I take a picture with Snapchat and I'm like, oh my gosh, look how pretty I look. Look, my face is like flawless. So look, you know, whatever. And then I'm like, wait, but that's not me. That's, you know, it's a filter, it's a distortion. And I want my children to know the truth, and I need to believe the truth of who I am. And so, so getting rid of all of these distortions in honesty. So like, you know, when my girls ask me, why, you know, the other day, she asked me a question about earrings and long hair and short hair, whatever. And I said to her, I was like, everybody's different. Everybody has different likes. And I said, but sometimes people get too carried away with it, and it can become a sin because we're ruining the temple that God gave us.
Right.
And she looked at me and she was just kind of like, oh. And she goes, so it's better to be just the way you are. And I said, yes, it's better to be just the way you are, the way that God intended you to be. And so, so even in those really small conversations, you are teaching your children about NFP and about the beginning of theology of the body. That you need, like you said in the beginning, it needs to be age appropriate, but we also need to be honest with our children, you know.
Yes.
And to let them know, well, this is what God intended. This is what we believe as Catholics. This is
Right.
the teaching of
And,
the church.
and Christina, you know as well as I do, it's countercultural because they're getting
Oh
hit
yeah,
with all kinds of messages. I mean, we try to insulate our kids as much as we can because we want them in a Catholic world, but we do know that they're going to have to deal with the real world. And so,
yeah,
yeah, we have to keep giving them those positive messages, those same messages about being the daughter of the king constantly, because we know that we they are constantly bombarded with
yeah,
these messages that go completely against our teaching.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the thing, like I said in the beginning, you know, as beautiful as it was that my daughter said she came from me, I needed to correct that real quick and say, yes, you came from me, but you are a daughter of God. And
that's
so,
right.
and that's not something that is going to end, at least for me. I will continue to use that line until she is out of my house and married.
Yeah.
Because especially in the teenage years when things get super confusing, they need to know that truth.
Yeah, so
And
that
so,
basic, yeah, so I guess my question to you, and you've already answered it, is what can we do as the Catholic Church? What can we do as the Diocese of Trenton to equip our moms to be that voice of wisdom and that voice of just balance in this world that really does go back to the dignity of the human person, go back to that, yes, we are made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, we have worth beyond anything we can ever imagine. And plus, God's mercy is so far beyond anything we can imagine, that we're loved. And that
yeah,
is, you're right, that's the basic message. So that's kind of what we want to get out to our folks. One of the things we're doing with our mother-daughter connection this year is we're having events, and perhaps there's an event that would work for you and your kids, but
yeah,
different age appropriate events. So on July 29th, we're going to have something called the Wonder of Eve. And it is a webinar for moms and their high school age students. Then later on, we're going to have something called Wonderfully Made. That'll be August 25th. That'll be a webinar for the younger ages, starting at about age 9, through about 8th grade. So we're having a series of events to help equip our moms to be that wisdom source for their daughters.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so we're excited about that. So is there anything else that you want to share? That wisdom is just so utterly important, but is there anything else that you want to share about what moms, just a little tip for moms, just to be courageous and just to do it?
Pray.
Yeah.
Pray a lot. But also, if there's one thing that this last year during this pandemic has taught me, is the importance of community. And
Absolutely.
finding other moms, finding friends, your sisters, whoever it is. But for women, to find women who are in this with them, who, when you are tired and you just want to go to sleep, or you just want to have that glass of wine and put your feet up and forget about the dishes and the laundry and everything else that's on your list to do, that they understand. And that you have a friend. Like when I was, this past week, I had to take my daughter to the ER, whatever. And the first thing I did was text my friends and ask for prayers. And I was like, I just need you to pray for my daughter right now, knowing, and that the next morning they were like, how are you? What happened? We prayed. Did you get answers? And knowing that those moms were with me, spiritually, meant like it was the greatest gift for me.
Right.
So finding a community, not only for the moms, but for your children.
You're right.
Finding a strong Catholic community where you are raising your children in the church and with the same principles, values, morals, and faith.
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
That has been the greatest. I've always known that I needed community. I am very much that person, but no, this past year has taught me that not only do I as an adult need it, but my children need a strong Catholic community.
Yeah.
And hence why we go to the school where we go. That's where we have found it, where my kids can come home and say, today I learned about, whatever it is. And we talk about it and we have a conversation about it. And I know that they are in a place where they are safe, where they are learning the truths of the Catholic Church. But not only that, but that they're forming good, solid relationships.
Absolutely.
And so that's one key, I would say. Look for a good Catholic foundation for yourself, but for your children as well.
I think that's the key. That's certainly been the key in our lives as the Hensler family. So I can relate to that 100%. And that's what other people say too. When they say, we see you as kind of a unit, and that you're first and foremost Catholic, and that you're all about your Catholic faith. And you're about serving God, and we just do that in simple little ways. But even my daughter, who's sort of halfway into the church and halfway out, she has said, what I want is what you have. I want that. I want that kind of community. She's married to a Jewish man, so it's going to be a little bit more challenging for them to find a community of the Catholic faith. They probably will also find a Jewish community that helps them, but it's all about that Christ-centered community that's going to help us. And you're absolutely right. That's the key right there. We cannot do it alone. We must have the support of others who share our values and who love us unconditionally. And the prayer is huge, because we're all connected spiritually by prayer. We are the body of Christ, and we are cells in that body, and we are all interconnected. And the prayer thing, even if it's just Mary help me, I have my little bracelet that I like to show people. This is my Blessed Mother bracelet. I'm constantly thinking about her and going to her for prayer. Part of that is from you, Cristina. You have taught me, these are the things that we learn from one another. This is why we need to be in this community of faith. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule, for sharing your children with us. We got to see them a little bit before we started, and they look amazing. I haven't seen them in a while. And to your husband, Dave, for sharing you with us, and for all the great work you continue to do to spread the truth and the beauty and the wonder of our Catholic faith. It is utterly amazing. And so for all information, NFP related, you can go to dioceseoftrenton.org/natural-family-planning. Okay, thank you, and God bless you. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.